The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversation as delegates from across known space took their seats. The massive chamber stretched upward into darkness, its walls lined with the glowing symbols of 1,000 different worlds. At the center, a holographic display waited to show the day's business. Counselor Vexthera of the Zephyrian Empire smoothed her silver robes and looked around the room with barely hidden contempt. The Zephyrians were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and eyes like stars. They considered themselves the most refined species in the galaxy, masters of art and culture. Next to her sat Ambassador Quarith of the Crystalline Collective, a being made of living crystal whose thoughts moved in perfect logical patterns. Across the circle, the massive form of General Krosk represented the hegemony of Keth, a warrior race with scales like armor and voices like thunder. These three powers controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes and military forces. They had seen empires rise and fall, watched countless species try to join their exclusive club of advanced civilizations. Most failed. The few that succeeded did so only after proving they could contribute something valuable to galactic society. Today's agenda seemed routine. Trade disputes between the mining colonies of Vega Prime. A territorial disagreement over who owned the rights to harvest energy from a dying star. Border Patrol reports from the Outer Rim. Nothing that required much attention from the great powers. Then the communication officer, a nervous creature with 6 arms and compound eyes, announced something unexpected. Honorable Council members, we have received a distress signal from an unknown species. The transmission originated from the Kepler 442 system. A wave of interested murmurs swept through the chamber. New species were always worth investigating, especially if they possessed technology advanced enough for interstellar communication. The display in the center of the room flickered to life, showing a star map with the Kepler system highlighted in red. "Play the transmission," Vexithara commanded. The audio crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a human voice. The speaker sounded tired and desperate, but maintained a professional tone that impressed some of the listening delegates. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, commander of the research station, New Horizon. We are 12 crew members stranded in the Kepler 442 system. After our ship suffered catastrophic engine failure 6 months ago, our life support systems are failing, and we have limited food supplies remaining. We are broadcasting this message on all frequencies in hopes that someone will receive it. We are peaceful researchers studying stellar phenomena. We have no weapons and pose no threat. Please, if anyone can hear this, we desperately need assistance. We have families waiting for us at home. Any help would be greatly appreciated." The message ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Then slowly, laughter began to ripple through the gathered delegates. "Humans," General Krosk rumbled, his voice filled with amusement. "The Doomworlders are lost again." "Oh, this is rich," Vexthera said, her musical voice dripping with sarcasm. "The Death World primitives want us to risk our ships to save them." Ambassador Quarith's crystalline form pulsed with calculated humor. "According to our files, humans evolved on Earth, a class-Thethene death world. The fact that any species survived such a hostile environment is remarkable, but it hardly makes them worth saving." The laughter grew louder as delegates shared what they knew about humanity. Earth was famous throughout civilized space as the most dangerous inhabited planet ever discovered. The atmospheric composition alone would kill most species within minutes. The weather systems regularly produced storms that could destroy cities. The native wildlife included creatures that could bite through steel plating. Volcanic activity, earthquakes, radiation from the local star, and dozens of other hazards made the planet a nightmare for any sane being. Yet somehow, humans had not only survived but thrived on this death world. They had developed space travel, built colonies on other hostile worlds, and even seemed to enjoy the challenge of living in dangerous environments. Most galactic citizens viewed them as either incredibly lucky or completely insane. "The Kepler system," said a delegate from the Academic Alliance, consulting his datapad, highly unstable gravitational fields, frequent radiation storms, and confirmed presence of void dwellers. "No rational species would attempt travel there." "Exactly my point," Vexthera replied. "These humans wandered into one of the most dangerous regions of known space and are surprised when their primitive technology failed them. Why should we risk our advanced vessels and trained crews to rescue a dozen Death World savages?" General Krosk leaned forward in his massive chair. "My people have a saying, the foolish hunter who chases prey into the swamp deserves whatever eats him. These humans chose to enter a stellar graveyard. Let them face the consequences. Ambassador Quarith processed this information with cold logic. A rescue mission to the Kepler system would require at least 3 warships for protection against void dwellers, specialized radiation shielding, and navigational equipment capable of handling gravitational anomalies. The cost would be enormous, and the risk to our personnel would be unacceptable. For what? To save 12 primitives who should never have left their toxic homeworld. The debate continued for several minutes, but the outcome was never in doubt. None of the great powers wanted to waste resources on a suicide mission to save humans. The Zephyrians cared only for beauty and culture, which they insisted humans lacked. The Crystalline Collective calculated that the risk-to-reward ratio made rescue impossible. The Keth viewed the situation as natural selection removing the weak from the galaxy. As the session moved on to other business, the human distress signal was filed under general communications and essentially forgotten. Some delegates made jokes about starting a betting pool on how long the stranded researchers would survive. Others suggested monitoring the transmissions for entertainment value. It might be educational, suggested a minor delegate from the scholarly worlds. We could study how a death world species reacts to imminent extinction. For science, of course. None of them bothered to analyze the human transmission in detail. If they had, they might have noticed the quantum encryption embedded beneath the surface signal. They might have detected the secondary transmission that fired simultaneously on frequencies no known species used. They might have realized that while 12 humans called for help in the Kepler system, their message was traveling much farther than anyone imagined. But the great powers of the galaxy were too busy laughing to pay attention to such details. In the depths of space, the human message raced toward the Sol system at faster than light speeds. Its secondary transmission contained additional information that the Galactic Council never heard. Stellar coordinates, tactical assessments of local threats, and a detailed analysis of the alien species that had received their call for help. The message also contained something else. 3 simple words that would change everything. They're watching. Respond. As the council session ended and the delegates returned to their comfortable lives, none of them suspected that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had judged the Doomworlders by their planet of origin and found them wanting. They had dismissed human technology as primitive and human courage as stupidity. Soon, they would learn the difference between surviving a death world and conquering one. But for now, they simply laughed and moved on to more important matters, completely unaware that their mockery had just signed a death warrant for their comfortable assumptions about who ruled the galaxy. 3 weeks passed since the Galactic Council first heard the human distress call. What started as brief entertainment had become a regular source of amusement for the assembled delegates. Every few days, another transmission would arrive from the research station New Horizon, and the aliens would gather to listen with the same enthusiasm they might show for a particularly engaging drama series. The human situation had grown worse, exactly as Ambassador Quarith's calculations had predicted. Dr. Sarah Chen's voice, once professional and hopeful, now carried the weight of desperation. Her latest transmission crackled through the council chamber's speakers, while delegates sipped exotic beverages and made quiet wagers. This is New Horizon Station, day 193 of our emergency. We have lost 2 more crew members. Dr. Martinez died yesterday from radiation exposure after our primary shielding failed in Sector 7. Engineer Thompson passed this morning from complications related to our failing life support systems. We are now 10 souls remaining. Dr. Chen's voice broke slightly before she continued. Our food supplies will last maybe 2 weeks if we maintain strict rationing. The recycling systems are operating at 60% efficiency and dropping daily. The hull breach in Section C has expanded despite our repair efforts. We're losing atmosphere faster than our backups can compensate. Counselor Vexthera took a delicate sip of her crystalline wine and smiled. How wonderfully tragic. The Death World primitives are learning that the universe doesn't care about their survival instincts. I calculate they have 14.7 days remaining before total life support failure. Ambassador Quarith announced with mechanical precision. The hull breach will reach critical expansion in 11.2 days, making the timeline academic. General Krosk rumbled with laughter. My engineers tell me their repair attempts are actually making things worse. These humans understand nothing about proper spaceship construction. Their vessel is held together with what our translators call hope and duct tape. The transmission continued with technical details about failing systems and dwindling supplies. Dr. Chen maintained her professional tone, but everyone listening could hear the exhaustion beneath her words. She spoke of crew members working double shifts to repair critical systems, of creative solutions cobbled together from salvaged parts, of small victories that bought them a few more hours of life. "We continue our research even under these conditions," Dr. Chen reported. "The energy anomaly we came to study has shown some fascinating properties. Dr. Kim believes we may have discovered a new form of stellar phenomenon. If we don't make it home, all our data is stored in the emergency beacon. We hope someone will find it useful." This drew fresh laughter from the council. The idea that primitives from a death world could discover anything useful was absurd to beings who had mastered interstellar travel when humans were still discovering fire. "They're still playing scientist while their ship falls apart around them," observed a delegate from the merchant guilds. "Perhaps their death world origins made them too stupid to understand when they should give up." What none of the listening aliens realized was that each human transmission contained layers of information they couldn't detect. While Dr. Chen spoke on standard galactic frequencies, her ship's computer simultaneously broadcast on quantum channels that only human technology could access. The secondary messages painted a very different picture of the situation. The real transmission spoke of deliberately damaged systems, strategically placed hull breaches, and carefully calculated supply shortages. They described a crew that was uncomfortable but far from dying, protected by redundant life support systems that the aliens couldn't detect. Most importantly, they contained detailed intelligence about the species that had received their calls for help. "Quantum Burst Transmission 7, Dr. Chen said in a voice no alien could hear. "Council continues to monitor our signals for entertainment. Zephyrians show typical arrogance patterns. Crystalline Collective maintains predictable logical responses. Keth display expected warrior culture dismissal. No indication any faction intends to provide assistance. Recommend immediate deployment of rescue assets." The hidden messages also contained detailed scans of the Kepler system, tactical assessments of void dweller populations, and gravitational maps that would make navigation significantly easier for ships designed to handle such challenges. What looked like desperation to alien observers was actually methodical intelligence gathering. Dr. Kim, supposedly dying from radiation exposure, was actually safely shielded in the station's hidden medical bay, running continuous scans of alien communication patterns. Engineer Thompson, pronounced dead in the latest transmission, was busy upgrading their quantum transmitters and preparing equipment for the arrival they all knew was coming. But the aliens heard only what they wanted to hear. Confirmation that Death World primitives were too weak to survive in civilized space. "I've increased my bet," announced a minor delegate from the Entertainment Consortium. "These humans will last exactly 9 more days. Their leader sounds ready to break completely." "You're too optimistic," Vexithera replied. "I give them 6 days before the psychological pressure destroys what little competence they have left." The betting had become quite popular among the lower-ranking delegates. Odds were calculated on everything from individual crew survival to which system would fail first. Some aliens even suggested broadcasting the transmissions more widely for public entertainment. General Krosk had a different idea. "When this ends, we should send a salvage team to recover their research data. Even primitives might stumble across something interesting before they die." "An excellent suggestion," Ambassador Quarith agreed. The economic value of their stellar anomaly research could offset the entertainment costs of monitoring their decline. As the session continued, none of the council members noticed the subtle changes in galactic communications traffic. Deep space monitoring stations reported unusual quantum signatures passing through their sensor grids. Trade ships mentioned strange energy readings along major hyperspace routes. Military patrols logged brief contacts with unidentified vessels that vanished before they could be properly scanned. The signs were there for anyone who cared to look, but the great powers of the galaxy were too focused on their entertainment to pay attention to larger patterns. They had become so confident in their technological superiority that they couldn't imagine primitives from a death world possessing capabilities beyond their understanding. Dr. Chen's latest transmission ended with what sounded like a prayer. "To anyone listening to these messages, we want you to know that we tried our best. We came out here to expand the boundaries of knowledge, to learn something new about the universe we all share. If we don't make it home, please remember that we lived as explorers and scientists. We never gave up hope that someone, somewhere, might care enough to help fellow sentient beings in need." The chamber fell silent for a moment, not out of respect but from surprise at the emotional content. Most galactic species had evolved beyond such primitive concepts as hope and faith. "How touching," Vexthara said finally. "They still believe in the goodness of others even as reality crushes their delusions." "Statistically improbable," Quarith observed. "Most species abandon hope when survival probability drops below 12%. What they didn't know was that hope was exactly what made humans dangerous. Hope was what drove them to send messages across impossible distances. Hope was what made them fight against odds that would make other species surrender. Hope was what brought Death World apex predators across the galaxy when their own called for help. And hope was about to arrive in the Kepler system with enough firepower to remind the galaxy why humans had survived their hostile homeworld in the first place. But for now, the aliens continued their betting and their laughter, completely unaware that they were about to meet the species that had turned a Clasthosthene Death World into a launching pad for conquest. The first sign that something had changed came from Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega-7, positioned 3 star systems away from the Kepler region. Chief Observer Zekthul was reviewing routine sensor logs when his displays suddenly erupted in warning signals. Every detection grid in his sector was screaming about massive spatial distortions moving through hyperspace at impossible speeds. "This can't be right," the 6-eyed creature muttered, adjusting his instruments with all 4 arms. "Nothing moves this fast." The energy signature was unlike anything in galactic databases. Where normal hyperspace travel created smooth, predictable distortions, this looked like someone was punching holes through reality itself. The readings suggested a propulsion system that operated on principles completely unknown to galactic science. Zekthul immediately transmitted his findings to the Galactic Council, but before he could complete his report, something even more disturbing happened. The spatial distortions stopped moving. They had reached the edge of his sensor range and simply vanished, as if whatever was causing them had dropped out of hyperspace. 6 hours later, Monitoring Station Beta 3 detected the same impossible signatures, then Station Gamma 12, then 3 more stations in rapid succession, all reporting the same phenomenon: massive spatial distortions appearing briefly, then disappearing as whatever caused them returned to normal space. By the time Emergency Session 7749 of the Galactic Council convened, 7 monitoring stations had logged the distortions. The trajectory was clear and terrifying. Whatever was moving through space was heading directly toward the Kepler 442 system. Could this be connected to the human distress calls? Asked a nervous delegate from the Outer Rim territories. Counselor Vexthara laughed, though it sounded forced. "Impossible. The Death World primitives barely possess interplanetary capability. Our intelligence reports show they've only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, and their ships are crude chemical-powered vessels." Ambassador Quarith processed the data with his usual mechanical precision. The energy readings suggest technology at least 2 centuries ahead of current galactic standards. The probability that humans possess such capabilities approaches 0. But General Krosk wasn't laughing anymore. As a military commander, he understood that impossible things on battlefields usually meant someone had better intelligence than you did. "What if our information about human capabilities is wrong?" "Ridiculous," Vexthara snapped. "We have extensive files on human technology. They use primitive combustion drives and nuclear fission reactors. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and explosive chemicals. They're barely above Stone Age level by galactic standards." As if summoned by her dismissal, another report arrived. Monitoring Station Omega-7, the first to detect the distortions, had gone silent. No response to communication attempts, no automated status reports, nothing. It was as if the station had simply vanished. "Equipment failure," Quarith suggested. "Deep space stations require regular maintenance." 2 hours later, Station Beta 3 also went silent. Then Gamma 12. One by one, every monitoring post along the trajectory toward Kepler 442 stopped responding to communication attempts. The last transmission from Station Delta 6 contained a brief visual record that froze the blood of every delegate who saw it. The image showed space itself tearing open like fabric, revealing glimpses of something that hurt to look at directly. Through the tears came shapes that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. vessels that looked less like ships and more like controlled explosions held in metal shells. The recording lasted only 3 seconds before cutting to static. "What kind of technology can do this?" whispered a delegate from the scientific worlds. Junior analyst Kefli of the Information Guild rose hesitantly from their corner seat. The small nervous creature rarely spoke in council sessions, preferring to compile reports and maintain databases, but something in the sensor readings had triggered a memory in their vast collection of theoretical studies. "Honorable council members," Kefli said, voice trembling with either fear or excitement, "I've been analyzing the energy signatures against our database of theoretical propulsion systems. The patterns match mathematical models developed by human scientists approximately 50 years ago." The chamber fell completely silent. The humans call it hyperspace tunneling, or dimensional folding. Kefli continued, consulting their datapad with shaking hands. "Our scientists dismissed it as impossible because it requires energy sources that shouldn't exist and materials that can't be created. But these readings suggest not only that humans have solved these problems, but that they've weaponized the technology." "Weaponized?" General Krosk leaned forward, his warrior instincts fully engaged. "The dimensional tiers we're seeing aren't just for travel," Kefli explained. "According to human theoretical papers, the same technology that opens hyperspace tunnels could be used to tear apart matter at the quantum level. A ship equipped with this technology wouldn't just travel through space, it could rewrite the laws of physics in the area around it." Bexathara's elegant composure finally cracked. "You're suggesting that the Deathworld primitives have developed technology that makes our most advanced vessels look like toys?" "Not suggesting," Kefli replied quietly. "Stating, according to these readings, we're looking at an entire fleet of such vessels, at least 40 signatures, possibly more, and they're all heading toward the same system where 12 humans are supposedly dying." The implications hit the council like a physical blow. If humans possess technology this advanced, every assumption about galactic power structures was wrong. The great civilizations that had ruled space for millennia were suddenly faced with the possibility that primitives from a death world had surpassed them completely. "How many ships?" General Krosk demanded. Kefli scrolled through their data. "Based on the distortion patterns, I estimate 47 distinct vessels. Size classifications range from what humans would call destroyers to something roughly equivalent to our largest dreadnoughts. But the energy output suggests weapons capabilities far beyond anything in our fleets." "This is impossible," Bexathara insisted. "Deathworld species don't develop advanced technology. They're too busy surviving their hostile environments to focus on scientific advancement." "Unless," said a quiet voice from the Academic Alliance, "surviving a Deathworld teaches them things we never learned." The comment hung in the air like a challenge to everything the galactic powers believed about themselves. They had achieved their advanced civilizations by evolving on safe, stable worlds with predictable environments. They had built their technologies in controlled laboratories with unlimited resources and perfect conditions. Humans had built their civilization while fighting for survival against a planet that actively tried to kill them. Every human innovation had been tested under conditions that would destroy other species. Their technology had evolved not in perfect laboratories, but in the crucible of constant danger. "We need to warn them," said a delegate from the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. "If humans possess this level of technology and military capability, they could threaten every civilization in the galaxy." "Warn who?" General Krosk asked grimly. "We don't even know where they're going or what they want." But Kefli had been analyzing the trajectory data while the council debated. "Actually, we do know where they're going. The course plots directly to the Kepler 442 system. Based on current speed and direction, they'll arrive in approximately 6 hours. The same system where the humans are stranded," Quorth observed with mechanical precision. The pieces suddenly clicked together in everyone's minds. The humans weren't sending random distress calls into empty space. They were reporting their location to their own people. The tiers in reality, the impossible technology, the fleet of vessels that could rewrite physics. All of it was coming to rescue 12 researchers from a damaged space station. "How many ships would we send to rescue 12 of our own citizens?" asked a delegate from the merchant guilds. "1, General Krosk admitted. "Maybe 2 if the area was particularly dangerous." "The humans are sending 47 warships armed with technology we can't understand," Kefli said quietly. Either they consider 12 lives worth more than we can imagine, or they're sending a message to everyone watching. In the depths of space, the human fleet continued its journey toward the Kepler system. They moved through hyperspace like sharks through water, leaving tears in reality that would take decades to heal. Their ships were scarred from battles against things that would give alien nightmares. Their crews, veterans of conflicts, fought in environments where other species couldn't survive. And at their head flew the UHSF Indomitable, flagship of Admiral Elena Vasquez, carrying orders that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Bring our people home, and show the universe what happens when you leave humans to die. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, like a force of nature given form and purpose. 47 vessels materialized from tears in reality itself, their arrival sending shockwaves through space-time that registered on sensors 3 star systems away. The ships ranged from sleek destroyer escorts that moved like predatory fish to massive dreadnoughts that blotted out entire starfields. At the formation's head flew the UHSF Indomitable, a kilometer-long battleship whose hull bore the scars of 100 different conflicts. Plasma burns from the Titan Rebellion created abstract patterns along her armor plating. Kinetic impact craters from the Mars corporate wars had been left unrepaired as badges of honor. Radiation scoring from battles against things that lived in the deep void gave her hull a texture that hurt alien eyes to look at directly. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood before the main display with the calm confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds so many times they had become routine. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching the shoulders of her bridge crew, but her presence filled the command center like a controlled explosion waiting to happen. "Tactical report," she ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in battles where retreat meant extinction. 47 vessels reporting ready for combat operations, replied Commander Chen from the tactical station. All ships showing green across the board. Hyperspace interdiction fields are active. Nothing gets in or out of this system without our permission. Sensor analysis of local threats, multiple void dweller swarms detected in the outer system. Estimate 3,000 individual hostiles, possibly more hiding in the asteroid fields. Gravitational anomalies are severe, but within acceptable parameters for our navigation systems. Radiation storms are actually below average for this region. Vasquez nodded. The Kepler system was notorious throughout galactic space as a region where only fools or desperate beings dared to travel. For humans who had grown up fighting the deadly wildlife of Earth and learned to navigate by pulsars through solar storms, it was just another day at the office. Communications. Open a channel to our stranded personnel. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the research station New Horizon. Dr. Sarah Chen appeared, and despite the weeks of supposedly desperate conditions, she looked remarkably healthy and alert. Her crew worked efficiently at their stations behind her, showing none of the panic or despair that their distress calls had suggested. "Admiral Vasquez," Dr. Chen said with a smile that didn't quite hide her relief. "Welcome to the Kepler system. We've been gathering intelligence as ordered. Status report, Doctor. All 12 crew members are in perfect health and ready for extraction. We've mapped local gravitational fields, cataloged void dweller behavior patterns, and maintained continuous surveillance of galactic communication networks. The aliens have been monitoring our transmissions for entertainment purposes, exactly as intelligence predicted." Vasquez allowed herself a thin smile. The mission had multiple objectives, and gathering intelligence about galactic civilization's response to human distress was almost as important as the rescue itself. "What did you learn about our neighbors?" "They're arrogant, technologically stagnant, and completely unprepared for any challenge to their assumptions about galactic power structures. They view us as primitive death-world savages barely capable of interplanetary travel. They've been betting on when we'll die." "How illuminating." Vasquez turned to her communications officer. "Broadcast on all galactic frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The transmission that followed would be recorded in alien history books as the moment their universe changed forever. Admiral Vasquez appeared on screens across known space, her uniform bearing decorations that told stories of victories against impossible odds. Behind her, the Indomitable's bridge hummed with activity as human. Officers managed technology that operated on principles alien science couldn't comprehend. This Is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Human Star Force, she began, her voice cutting through static and interference like a blade through silk. We received a distress call from our people. We have come to bring them home. Across the galaxy, alien observers felt their comfortable assumptions crumble as they watched human technology in action. The fleet moved through the Kepler system's hazards with casual efficiency that spoke of experience with far worse conditions. Gravitational anomalies that would tear apart alien vessels were used as slingshots to increase speed. Radiation storms that could cook most species alive were absorbed by human ships and converted into additional power for their systems. To any hostile forces in this system, Vasquez continued, you have 30 minutes to withdraw to a safe distance. We are here for our people, but we will defend ourselves against any threat. To our stranded crew, hold fast. We're bringing you home. The first test of human resolve came 20 minutes later when the Void Dwellers attacked. The creatures were nightmares given physical form, beings of living darkness that fed on electromagnetic energy and could grow to the size of small moons. They swarmed toward the human fleet in numbers that would have sent any other force fleeing for hyperspace. The aliens monitoring from distant sensor stations expected to watch the Deathworld primitives learn why the Kepler system was avoided by all civilized species. Instead, they witnessed something that challenged their understanding of what was possible. Human point defense systems opened fire with weapons that seemed to rewrite local physics. Energy beams that moved faster than light carved through Void Dweller swarms like searchlights through fog. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, turned individual creatures into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. When the largest Void Dwellers attempted to grapple human ships with tentacles the size of skyscrapers, they found hull armor that had been forged in stellar cores and tested against things far worse than anything the Kepler system could produce. The battle lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, the Void Dweller population of the system had been reduced from 3,000 to 0, and the human fleet hadn't lost a single vessel. Interesting, Admiral Vasquez observed as her ships moved toward the research station. I was hoping for more of a challenge. Dr. Kim's voice came over the communication channel from the research station. Admiral, we've detected massive gravitational signatures in the inner system. Something big is moving toward us from the direction of the primary star. Define big, Doctor. Roughly the size of a small moon. Energy readings suggest it's artificial. This might be what destroyed the previous expeditions to this system. Vasquez studied the sensor readouts with interest rather than concern. Her fleet had been built to fight in environments where physics worked differently than normal space. They had weapons designed to crack planets and shields that could absorb the energy output of dying stars. Whatever was coming toward them would face technology that had been tested against the most dangerous threats humanity could imagine. All ships, this is indomitable. We have contact with a large hostile entity. Formation Delta 7, weapons free. Let's show our audience what human engineering can accomplish. The entity that emerged from behind the system's primary star was indeed the size of a small moon, a construct of crystalline armor and energy fields that had probably been guarding the Kepler system for millennia. It moved with predatory grace toward the human fleet, weapons that could sterilize planets beginning to charge for firing. It lasted exactly 47 seconds against concentrated fire from 47 human warships, as debris from the ancient Guardian scattered across the system. Admiral Vasquez opened another channel to the research station. Dr. Chen, prepare for immediate extraction. We'll have you aboard the medical ship within the hour. Admiral, Dr. Chen replied, there's something else you should know. We weren't just gathering intelligence about alien reactions. The energy anomaly we came here to study, we've solved it. This system contains technology that could revolutionize our understanding of hyperspace mechanics. Secure all research data and prepare for transfer. We'll discuss the implications once you're safely aboard. As human ships moved with military precision to extract their people, observers throughout the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Deathworld primitives they had mocked were demonstrating technology and military capabilities that made their own forces look like museum pieces. But Admiral Vasquez wasn't finished with her message to the galaxy. As the rescue operation proceeded with mechanical efficiency, she prepared to send one final transmission that would reshape galactic politics forever. The universe was about to learn that humans didn't just survive death worlds, they conquered them. and now they were bringing that same approach to interstellar relations. The rescue operation proceeded with the precise efficiency that marked all human military actions. Ships that had been designed to operate in the gravity wells of gas giants and the radiation fields of dying stars made quick work of the Kepler system's hazards. Within 14 hours, all 12 members of the research station crew were safely aboard the fleet's medical ship, receiving treatment that alien observers couldn't understand. Dr. Martinez, supposedly dead from radiation exposure, walked onto the medical ship under his own power, his fatal condition having been nothing more than a temporary side effect of exposure to exotic particles that human biology handled better than most species realized. Engineer Thompson, pronounced dead days earlier, was busy uploading terabytes of intelligence data to the fleet's computers. The real shock came when alien medical scanners, monitoring from a safe distance, analyzed the human crew's biological readings. These weren't the desperate dying primitives that had been broadcasting distress calls for weeks. These were healthy, alert individuals whose body chemistry showed signs of genetic modifications that shouldn't have been possible. Their cellular structure is completely wrong, reported a crystalline collective medical officer monitoring the rescue. They should have died from radiation exposure weeks ago. Instead, their DNA seems to be actively repairing itself faster than the damage can accumulate. Look at their muscle density, added a Zephyrian biologist. These beings are built like living weapons. How did we miss this in our initial species assessments? The answer was simple. They had looked at humans through the lens of their own assumptions. Civilized species had evolved on safe worlds where survival was easy and genetic diversity was low. They had never encountered a species that had been forced to adapt to every possible threat their environment could produce. Human DNA didn't just carry genes for intelligence and tool use. It carried the accumulated survival adaptations of 1 billion years of evolution on a world that killed everything weak enough to die. But Admiral Vasquez wasn't finished with her demonstration. As her ships prepared to depart the Kepler system, she opened a new communication channel that reached every corner of known space. This time, her message wasn't just words. It was accompanied by visual records of everything the human fleet had accomplished. To the Galactic Council and all member species, she began, her image appearing on countless screens throughout civilized space. You received a distress call from human civilians. You had the power to help, and you chose to laugh instead. The transmission continued with footage that would haunt alien nightmares for generations. Human engineers working in radiation levels that would have killed most species within minutes, their bodies adapting to the hostile environment in real time. Human pilots flying through gravitational anomalies that should have crushed their ships, using the system's own dangers as tools to increase their efficiency. Human soldiers standing guard against creatures that had destroyed entire expeditions, treating cosmic horrors as minor inconveniences. Today, you learned something important about the species you call Doomworlders, Vasquez continued. We don't just survive on death worlds and we thrive on them. We don't just endure hostile environments and we master them. And we don't abandon our own regardless of distance, danger, or cost. The footage showed human technology in action, ships that could fold space around themselves, weapons that rewrote local physics, shields that absorbed the energy of dying stars. But more importantly, it showed human character. Every crew member working with calm efficiency under conditions that would have sent other species into panic. Officers making decisions based on principles rather than calculations. A civilization that measured success not by what they could acquire, but by what they could protect. We came to the Kepler system with 47 warships because 12 human lives were in danger, the Admiral explained. We will cross any distance, face any threat, and pay any price to protect our people. This is not a boast or a threat. It is simply who we are. Dr. Chen appeared in the transmission, standing in the medical ship's laboratory where she was analyzing samples of the exotic particles that had originally brought them to Kepler 442. The energy anomaly we came to study represents a new form of matter that exists in quantum superposition with normal space. Our research here will advance human technology by decades and provide new tools for exploring the universe. But more importantly, Admiral Vasquez added, we learned something about our galactic neighbors. We learned that when humans call for help, only humans answer. We learned that the great civilizations of the galaxy view suffering as entertainment and death as acceptable losses. We learned that we can count only on ourselves. The transmission included detailed scans of every major alien fleet, tactical assessments of galactic military capabilities, and economic analyses that showed how completely human technology had surpassed anything the established powers possessed. It was intelligence gathering on a scale that impressed even veteran spies. We are not seeking conflict, Vasquez continued. We are not interested in conquest or domination. We simply want to explore the universe and protect our people. But understand this. Any species that threatens human civilians will face the full response of the United Human Star Force. Any government that stands by while humans die will be remembered as enemies. Any civilization that treats human suffering as entertainment will learn why we survived our death world, when so many others would have failed. The final segment of the transmission showed the human fleet preparing to depart. Ships that had rewritten the rules of interstellar warfare formed up with parade ground precision, their crews already analyzing the next system that needed their protection. As they prepared to enter hyperspace, Admiral Vasquez delivered her closing statement. To the humans watching this transmission throughout the galaxy, you are not alone. Wherever you are, whatever danger you face, we will come for you. The universe is vast and often hostile, but it will never be stronger than human courage or more dangerous than human determination. To the alien species of the Galactic Council, you had a choice. You could have shown compassion to fellow sentient beings in need. You could have demonstrated that civilization means something more than technological advancement. Instead, you chose cruelty and mockery. You chose to treat the suffering of others as your entertainment. The Admiral's expression hardened into something that made watching aliens suddenly remember why predators were feared throughout the galaxy. That was a mistake. The universe just became a much smaller place, and humans have very long memories. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a Kepler system that was now completely free of the hazards that had made it a graveyard for millennia, the established galactic powers faced a new reality. The Death World primitives they had dismissed were not just technologically superior, they were morally superior as well. In the days that followed, human exploration ships began appearing in systems throughout known space. They didn't conquer or colonize, they simply explored, cataloged, and moved on. But their presence sent a clear message. Humans could go anywhere, anytime. And there was nothing the established powers could do to stop them. Trade negotiations suddenly became much more polite when human representatives attended. Border disputes were resolved more quickly when human mediators offered their services. Rescue operations became more efficient when human vessels responded to distress calls. The galaxy had spent millennia under the rule of species that had never faced real adversity. Now they shared space with beings who had turned adversity into strength, hostility into opportunity, and death worlds into launching pads for expansion. The Galactic Council never formally apologized for their treatment of the human distress call. They didn't need to. Everyone understood that the balance of power had shifted permanently. The age of comfortable assumptions was over. The age of the Doomworlders had begun. And somewhere in the depths of space, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at stars that no longer seemed quite so distant. Her people were safe, her mission was complete, and the galaxy had learned something important about the species from the little blue death world that humans called home. The universe was vast and dangerous, but it had just become much more interesting.